Hey, hi, this is Mike Henriksen from Velocity 2013. I'm here with Graham Melville from Citrix. Graham, how you doing?
Good.
Good.
Great conference here you've got going.
It is. So the conversations have been good for you this week?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Interesting stuff.
Interesting stuff. We've been talking a little bit about what Citrix is up to.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit more about what you guys are doing and why Velocity is the right place for you guys to be?
So, I mean, if you take Citrix from the highest level, we define ourselves as a cloud company that enables mobile work styles. And part of that and part of the uniqueness of what we do and we offer is that we're not just at the application layer, but we're down in the networking layer as well. And so there's a couple of things that you'll see here. Citrix has a very broad portfolio, but you'll see, if you go to our pod, then there's two kind of areas we're focusing on. One is, cloud orchestration, and the other is on delivering applications, through web applications, through the enterprise, and, across World Wide Web as well.
Graham, when I think of Citrix, I often think about enterprise, and that's the play that you normally are. Is that what you're traditionally playing in, or are you now expanding into different markets?
So I suppose in terms of where Citrix initially grew up, yeah, it was an enterprise company. But if you look at the products we have now, and particularly when Citrix purchased NetScaler way back when in the 2000s, NetScaler is a product that sits in front of about 75% of the internet traffic going through to web servers, etc. Now, obviously, the reason it bought it is because the technology that applies out there on the big web farms that are out there equally applies to the enterprise. And so being able to deliver that control and flexibility to the enterprise is just as important. And again, that same technology actually applies into telcos as well. So through our Byte Mobile division, we do a lot in the telco core as well.
So when you say NetScaler sits in front of 75% of web servers, that's in the whole world, worldwide?
Yeah, we estimate that about 75% of the traffic goes through
Wow.
NetScalers. Yeah, so
Wow.
we grew up being the front end for all the big early webs out there, and so taking that technology and what we learned from those guys and applying that down into the enterprise is what's making I strongly believe sort of making our market share of that market right now skyrocket as more and more mobile applications and web applications are coming into the enterprise. People aren't interested in buying big iron load balancers anymore. They want something that's going to offer it's feature rich, that's really going to enhance and enable them to do agile development on applications that's going to basically make their business more agile.
Right, and one of the themes I've been picking up at this conference this year is load balancing, the concept of load balancing. Mm-hmm. And you guys take care of that seamlessly in your NetScaler, or how does that work with you guys?
Yeah. So NetScaler kind of started out as a load balancer, but load balancer just so much more today. Load balancer is a feature now of an application delivery controller. And so, application delivery controllers move much higher up in the stack. They're looking at things and doing really clever stuff with web traffic, that takes a whole load off web servers and enables application developers to do really cool stuff very, very simply that otherwise would just take them a phenomenal amount of code and processing and coordination between, if they're running across multiple servers. So yeah, it's being used more and more. But yeah, people still like to call it a load balancer.
Yeah. So I hear Cisco had an announcement today that it has to do with something you guys are doing, or
yeah,
can you talk about that a bit?
So I think if you look at the way the market's going, if we ask ourselves, what are some of the key things that's happening in the web development, web world, and network world today? There's a few things that are making a big difference. One is the flattening and the virtualization of the network. The other is mobility, and of course everyone throws the word cloud in somewhere or other. And whether you believe in SDN, software-defined networks, or not, it's a fact that the networks have to become a lot more agile. You've seen some of the development with the virtualization of servers and the way that you can spin up different apps and spin them down, expand them and shrink them. Well, you need the same thing to follow through on the network. And the application delivery controller is sitting in the middle there. So by Cisco taking the NetScaler application delivery controller and making that part of their, unified fabric, making it part of their, networking cloud services, it's enabling those hooks and abilities for the network to, really start to take control and add value further back up the chain. So, the Cisco announcements is pretty exciting. And it's not just one way. It's not just that they're now taking and using and selling the NetScaler product. There's some product innovation and some way that the network works that they're driving back down into our product as well. And I think that's going to help sort out some of the siloed mentality that you see within the enterprise between, my networking guy or on the application side, and the two don't speak sometimes.
The app developers versus the IT guys. So they're going to sit in the middle.
So if you think about it, a load balancer, where it started, it was just doing basic packet load balancing, really, at the end of the day. So it was kind of seen as a networking appliance. Well, there's so much more in there now that, in some companies, the app guys choose what application, delivery controller you're going to use. But those two departments often are different. And, how departments are, they sometimes get siloed, don't talk. And so I think, this relationship with Cisco is going to, bring all that together, and it's just going to make companies, whole network, application delivery, all the services that go with it, just so much more simple, so much easier to manage. And, you're not going to get the problem of, well, it was easy to spin up the app, but now I can't get the network bandwidth or the network connectivity to get it through to the place that needs to get through to.
So one of the other themes that I've heard this week is this whole culture of DevOps, where you're kind of getting the application developers talking to your IT group so that there isn't that chasm between the both of them. And that's a future direction. But what other directions do you see that are going to be important to making the whole web work faster?
So I think some of it is... if you take the web as a whole, I think with the explosion of mobile apps within the enterprise, I think you're going to see some of the technology that traditionally today, for example, take video compression. There's video compression, video translation, video caching. A lot of that actually happens in the telco core. Well, as more and more enterprises are using video for delivering HR training and, product training and all sorts of things, you see more and more of that happening.
And whatnot.
Exactly. And so, for example, some of the clever stuff we do is you've probably got a nice smartphone with a 1080 screen, and you think you're playing 1080 video. Well, the chances are, if you're pulling it off the web and going through the telco core, they're smart enough to know that you can't actually tell the difference between 1080p and something a little lower, and so it kind of gets translated down. So I see some of that technology that kind of starts in the telco core with places like our Byte Mobile division. We'll be bringing that down into the enterprise. So I think you'll see some of those things happening. And then at the enterprise level, I think what you're going to see happening is more and more app developers being aware of the clever stuff that these application delivery controllers can do that'll just make it much faster for them to get their web apps out there, smarter ways for them to beta and test and those kind of things.
Yeah, you just jogged my memory here, the 1080 resolution. There's more BYOD now, bring your own device to work. Yeah. So organizations, enterprises are going to have to deal with this whole proliferation of different size devices, different bandwidths, different tacks on their network. And is your product positioned well, or your company?
It is. In fact, it's used, that's one of the things between your basic load balancing and application delivery controller. So, when you hit a website, it knows, it knows what OS you're doing, what browser, what kind of device you're on, and it can point you to a particular set of servers. So, you just think you're going to abc.com, but, you're actually going to abc.com for your particular device and your content, and so it might recognize that your browser supports the speedy protocol, for instance, so it's going to deliver you straight through to the web server speedy protocol. Maybe I've got an older device, wouldn't like to name one for fear of upsetting a manufacturer, but I've got an older device and I'm going through and I don't support speedy, then it just lets me through it on the basic way. Someone else's device supports speedy, but the back end server doesn't. And so the application delivery controller, again, comes into play, translates for him, gateways it through. So there's a lot of smart stuff there that really enables the kind of BYOD and the way that the network traffic flows through.
Graham, this has been great talking with you. I hope we see you and Citrix at future Velocity events around the world.
Thank you.
Thank you.